Affirmations for the Consciousness by Derrick Lee.
I am intent on fathoming my own self and forming an opinion of myself which relates to reality, and which corresponds to the actual facts. I never let others inject their opinion because my own opinion about my own personality can only be formed completely according to reality when no outside influences, in the form of the opinions of others, play a part. When forming an opinion regarding my actual personality, I have no thoughts about the opinions of others, rather only thoughts about myself, about my character, morality, and true I, as well as about life and death and the fulfillment of my evolution.
See Rebirth, Life, Dying, Death and Sorrow book by Beam, English translation copyright 2023.
Just as I am the architect and owner-builder of my surroundings and the external world, I am also the creator of my own morality, character, state of psyche, and the I, consciousness, and, therefore, entire personality. I always attract that which I am. The direction of my thoughts is thereby determined by my consciousness, stimulated by its impulsations, intuitions, inspirations, and ideas. God helps those who help themselves. God is he or she who forms the human being's destiny, the human being himself or herself. God is my inner self from which my thoughts, with their might, are created. I myself create, through the might of my thoughts, every one of my own states, regardless of whether it is a state of actual inner freedom or a negative state of imprisonment. Through my thinking alone, I determine whether I stagnate or evolve. All wishes and prayers are thoughts generated by me which are fed back, out of the consciousness and inner self, to thereby create a fulfillment. I only obtain true inner freedom when I am conscious of the might of my own thoughts and the fact that I am always, and in every case, master of my own destiny, and I always, therefore, determine and form this myself, precisely through the might of my thoughts. Through my effort, I allow change in myself so that I may improve my life circumstances. I constantly monitor my own thoughts and direct them in a neutral, positive, equalized way. 44. Through my self-examination and my efforts, I create an effective inner freedom and finding of self, which I recognize and reach its seal, and for which the entire innermost nature yearns. I always strive for a life which is strong and well-rounded, full of peace, love, equalizedness, freedom, and harmony. I always maintain the corresponding positive thoughts which pertain to the possibility for change, such as daily work and striving to reach its seal. My thoughts are directed at fairness, equitableness, and responsibility for myself, my environment, and my fellow human beings. I effectively recognize the sense of life, the responsibility, understanding, and the simple, fundamental principles concerning how true prosperity is truly built up. Nothing other than my own thoughts are decisive in how my life and its circumstances form. My thoughts are mightfully converted into actions. Everything which is useless, wrong, and unclean is burnt out and eliminated from my thoughts. Like shimmering and glistening gold, all impurities that I create in my thoughts are burnt out so that my sin is pure and luminous. All self-created circumstances which bring me enjoyment, love, joy, happiness, peace, freedom, and harmony are a product of my own neutral, positive equalizedness and harmony. My virtues, good character, and equalized personality are the product of my own thoughts and their might as well as my equalizedness. Circumstances of life which are imposed purely from outside and by outside forces I control by means of my own right thoughts and direct along paths which enable an improvement or simply change. In accordance with the law of causality, the law of cause and effect, I myself create fairness or unfairness and indeed by means of my thoughts. I always search for the reason for my wrong thinking and analyze it to clarify the circumstances as precisely as possible. I now form new progressive and healing forms of thinking which counters any harmful negative aspects. My neutral positive equalized thinking is always healthy and evolutive to the world of my thoughts, my consciousness, and the world of my feelings, my psyche, even when it is not directly related to purely physical health. While being occupied by a wish dream, my thoughts are calm, which enables me to tackle and consider any situation more easily in order to gain from it the necessary cognition, which then is processed into neutral positive equalized thinking. I organize my thoughts in a positive wise. Through a healthy positive might of the thoughts, I consciously maintain flexibility and broaden my field of perception. Today, I am physically and psychically equalized. The might of my thoughts is decisive in the forming of my feelings. I recognize any distortions of reality in my thinking. I create a new attitude/conviction at will and experience it, live it. I critically examine which mental unconscious or conscious assessments, attitudes, ideals, and imaginations are hidden behind all forms of behavior. I am always aware of my own I. I fathom and recognize everything myself in order to take the necessary steps of cognitive restructuring. I have the lived practical experience myself by means of my own initiative. I create new thoughts, feelings, and convictions from the living of new practical experiences that I create by neutral positive equalized thinking. I create neutral positive equalized thoughts which then create neutral positive equalized feelings which influence my psyche in a neutral positive equalized way. The might of my thoughts forms the feelings which decide the condition of my psyche. Everything is called forth and steered by the might of my thoughts. Through neutral positive equalized thinking, I create neutral positive equalized change to my feelings. I constantly nurture strong, harmonious, and healthy thoughts, and thereby also build up corresponding feelings. The primal principle of love and fairness are my driving power and the nature of the life. The might of the thoughts forms me into that which I want to be. The might of the thoughts determines the being or non-being of me and thereby determines every opportunity for me to adjust my life and to make the best of every situation as well as create peace and true inner freedom. My body is enlivened by the spirit, which, as a tiny piece of creation, I regard as the actual truthful life. My spirit is the body-enlivening principle which also contains and stores true evolution which I achieve, consciously as well as unconsciously, by means of the material consciousness and the overall consciousness block. My spirit is the driving power of the life and of the evolution, and indeed in constant compliance with the creational laws and recommendations. My body is the medium of expression of the material consciousness. My body obeys the orders of the material consciousness. My consciousness determines its own health in intelligent and rational form by means of the might of its thoughts. My consciousness extensively determines the health or decline of my body by means of the might of my thoughts. My feelings form the state of my psyche, which in turn are based upon corresponding thoughts. My thoughts and feelings, and the psychical state which results from them, can negatively or positively influence physical illness, disease, and healing. My thoughts are constructive, beautiful, positive, happy, and equalized, and my feelings and psyche are also likewise. As a further consequence, my immune system is strengthened and my body is as if interwoven with a kind of protective energy. As I see the effectiveness of the thoughts in the right way, I recognize that the might of my thoughts is therefore able to determine the physical well-being and thereby sickness and health in manifold form. My thinking is always constructive, renewing and progressive, so that the might of the thoughts is able to make real all that which is useful and worth striving for me, for my consciousness and psyche, as well as for my life and entire circumstances of life. The might of my thoughts allows no possibility other than that which the thoughts themselves create. My thoughts are the wellspring of my actions, my life, and its fulfillment. I allow my thoughts to be constructively creatively effective through their own might. I supply my thoughts with neutral positive equalized nourishment. I no longer demand on good negative factors and desires through which my thoughts are burdened and steered in a negative form. My thinking is free, open, peaceful, and harmonious, and thereby neutral positive equalized. I control the very origin of my thoughts in order then, in a controlled manner, to form my thoughts from that, and to steer them in such a way that their might only makes real that which is healthy, clean, good, right, and positive. I care for my consciousness and have it create in a neutral, positive, equalized form those thoughts which, in every regard and wise, are affirming of life. My consciousness is filled with thoughts of joy, peace, love, and harmony, which then, in this form, also form my feelings, by means of which my good will and peaceful and loving cheerfulness then enters my psyche, which in turn radiates the same kind of impulses into my consciousness, from which, in turn, new thoughts of the same kind evolve, in a progressive, constructive rhythm of life-affirming development. My thoughts influence healing as a result of their might. I steer the form of my thoughts in a correct kind and wise in order for them to flow along in friendliness, love, and peace. I see and recognize the actual truth, and I understand that it alone creates peace, freedom, love, and well-being in my thoughts. I form my thoughts with the truthly truth, love, effective peace, real inner freedom, and harmony. I clearly recognize my victory over my thoughts and my feelings. I am free from vice and any other azartung which enslaves, confines, or imprisons me. I think, tend, and nurture thoughts which are good, right, positive, peaceful, and joyful, free and harmonious, and I am friendly in the correct measure to everyone, which brings me abundance of the peace, the love and joy, and the harmony itself. I patiently learn the truth in correctness and make the effort to form knowledge and wisdom in myself. I find that which is good and positive in all things of life and in all situations, events, deeds, and experiences. I constantly nurture strong, harmonious, healthy thoughts. My thoughts of peace, love, joy, freedom, and harmony for my fellow human being and all creatures every single day ultimately brings all these values to me in great abundance. My consciousness or unconsciousness purposefulness is able to bring my thoughts to fruition. Therefore, the might of my thoughts are only effective when there is a definite intention, indeed, a setting of its seal collected with my thoughts. My setting of its seal can thereby be created completely consciously or unconsciously. I understand the importance of my setting of its seal because my thoughts can only be intelligently fulfilled and brought to fruition when there is a definite setting of a seal. Due to the nature of the might of my thoughts, not only conscious strivings towards its seal come to fruition, but also unconscious ones. Once my thoughts are actually created, then they very quickly gain power and, indeed, might as they are repeatedly thought. I control my thoughts in every phase and indeed consciously, so that uncontrollable unconscious, automatic thoughts do not become the driving might and do not fulfill unconscious intentions. An unconscious setting of its seal which is able to bring about physical and psychical harm as well as material harm. With the might of correct, healthy and positive thoughts, in righteousness, I am even able to prevent catastrophes and destruction. As a human being, I see, find, and fulfill a legitimate sense in my life. According to the creational laws of evolution, and by means of my striving fulfilling this sense in my life, is my central point of my thinking. My striving for the fulfillment of my evolution can thereby be very manifold, and can have a purely consciousness-based or purely material foundation. In one moment my striving can therefore be a spiritual or consciousness-based matter or a purely material one, depending on my present nature. I always set a conscious zeal, control it and work towards it because in my thoughts my might realizes the seal which I am striving for. No matter what the seal is, I constantly align the powers of my thoughts with it. I purposefully concentrate my thoughts on my seal so that I consciously fulfill it. I make the sense of life a seal of my highest obligation along with the conscious fulfillment of the zeal. I dedicate myself to the conscious reaching of my seal, which is of a good, positive, right, and healthy constructive kind.